the world's greatest DAC for the world's least amount of money? Let's call it that for now. The issue I had was that I had this, a cheap and infinitely replaceable DAC, which I think is quite useful because this is as cheap as a cable between your phone and a DAC that you would buy, and it gives really clear sound. The issue is that it doesn't have a grand preamp in it. The issue there is partly to do with Europe, where the headphone limitations of what it will allow your phone to put through the USB-C cable is limited because they think that you don't want to have it too loud, which would be true if the fact that headphones have incredibly variant different impedance ratings. So the dongle itself is fab. The issue is preamp. So the solution, more often than not, is gotta find myself an expensive DAC that's going to do wonderful things to the sound. But you know what your expensive DAC really does? It just takes the same kind of a chip and chucks a nice preamp on it. So what I did, as part of a separate project, I got myself a audio interface. Now this is a special audio interface with a special drawback that is especially good for people like us. And that is, it is completely obsolescent. It can't be run on Mac and it can't be run on PC. So it can't be run on anything any normal person would use. I can just about get it to run on Linux on my Chromebook, which is turning out to be a better computer than my PC most of the time. So it is this. It is a, you can see it here, it is a, what do we have here? A beautiful, terrible angles, but it is a, what's it called again? A, there we go, it's written on the top of it. And should have bothered to edit this video. Focusrite Sapphire USB. Now you will already notice that the genius that is producing this video is doing so using a selfie camera, because cameras is something I have yet to particularly invest in. But anyway, there we go, selfie camera, so the image is reversed, nice and clever. Right, anyway. So the utility of this was that because it's completely obsolescent and absolutely useless to anybody who wants to use it what it's supposed to be used for, I can sort of get by making my audiobook with it, because it's a very basic kind of a project. But what it is quite a sophisticated and excellent preamp with some very interesting settings that is very useful for people like me, in that I happen to be, I mean, it will come as no shock, a bit of a geek, and I quite like myself a record. I especially like a cheap record, and I especially like some really old ones, right? With some very interesting versions of those you can get, including some that they've absolutely ruined, supposedly. And they've done that by chucking echo onto one side of a mono recording and leaving the one side completely clean. Now the beauty of my little preamplifier, which I'll explain later, in terms of how it functions, is that it allows me to, with a little twiddle of the knobs, to switch over to mono, but not only switch over to mono, but to choose which input I'm using. So when I've got my nice Nat King Cole record with one side of rubbishy, echoey rubbish nonsense that sounds stereo, and I have the other side that is a beautiful, clean, untouched, untarnished mono recording that I picked up for 99 of my good British pence. Not as good a euro, but you know, you got to do it the best you can. This beautiful recording can be heard in its delicious original mono, and I can also choose which output I want to put it in, because I have this beautiful little piece of rubbish that is not rubbish to you and I. It cost me a grand £30, which is about $40 to buy, because nobody can use it for anything, because it is connected, exclusively powered through USB, and when it is through USB, it does not connect itself and power the preamp to use in the function that I'm using it in. It can be used for USB, but it sort of doesn't work. So I found myself a little website, did a little Googling, and there's a little wire that I took a bit of spare wire I had lying around, a cheap soldering iron that I got for myself for I think about £6 from Lidl's. I got my £7 dongle, my £30 preamp, and did a little tinkering. I happen to have, of course, an extremely cheap old Denon amplifier, and the beauty of this is that round in the back what we have is a little in and out, which is used for equalizers and things like that. But the utility for me is that my phono from my cheap £30 exceptionally brilliant 40-year-old Sony turntable, you can see just there, PS LX4, quite nice. Beauty of that, this arrangement here is that, and this is quite common in amps of this age. I've got another one downstairs that's got pretty much the same functionality. So because it goes into my amplifier, uses the phono stage from my amplifier, it comes out, that's a little out side there, it comes out and into my Focusrite in the appropriate side of the two inputs there. One's for left, one's for right. Oh, excuse the beautiful camera work there. Right. So, it goes in there, gets deliciously preamplified with a lovely set of lights that blink to tell you that you've got the levels just right, and it comes up and it tells you it's so nice. It goes, your input is just right, and it's going to be your pre-gain from your microphone's just right, and you can tinker around to your absolute delight, and it does produce a beautiful sound. And so it does all that magic there, and then out it comes out of the out from here and into the in from there. So, and I have here, this is something that you younger folk might not recognise. It's what's called, oh, it's very clever, look, here's another brilliant little USB. It's called a 3.5mm jack. Astonishing piece of technology that can actually be used quite successfully to produce some very nice sounds. When you're talking about your single signal chain and all that kind of stuff, it's so low powered at that point that interference is not going to be an issue. The beauty of this setting is, as soon as it's gone through this bit, it is all completely handled as a separate signal right the way through. So you've got complete, oh, what's the term, where there's two discrete signals that runs through the Focusrite through the amplifier. But anyway, this is the beauty of the system. So, comes in through there, and what I have done is there's a little wire just somewhere in there, a Phillips head screwdriver opens this up, and we have that little wire, which was actually originally, I think, part of this wire for an FM speaker, and as you can see, it's snapped there. An FM, not speaker, an FM aerial, but it's usefully just a little copper wire, and a little copper wire gets you a long way, as I've discovered. So little copper wire jumps from one part of the circuit board here into another part. I'll link in the description for where the page that I used to get that. It uses the USB-B power, and rather than having, in their infinite wisdom, have decided that only people who buy more expensive versions of this can power it exclusively on USB, unless you have a tiny bit of copper wire and about 10 minutes, in which case make a little jump from the power here to the power it needs to power its preamp, and you are all sorted. It was a very simple fix, and it instantly turned my little tiny dongle amp into a beautiful, and I do mean beautiful, sounding and absolutely delightful amplifier. It gives all of the details you could possibly dream of, and it adds a lot of really nice clarity and warmth, and it's just fabulous if you ask me. Anywho, for now, I hope you enjoyed my little guide.